Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. We've just been interviewing Rasmus and I'm now going from Rasmus to Beth. I don't know whether it's an upgrade. Well, you can decide in the chat. How you doing, Beth?
You've set me up there, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've set me up. I can't upgrade from Rasmus, but I would like to think it's not too much of a downfall.
Well, I'm happy to interview you both. And we're going to talk about basically a United rebuild. We're here at Carrington. We've got the space. So we thought we'd talk about a United rebuild in the summer. And targets that we'd like to bring in. So give us your comments below. I think, Beth, it's fair to say that we're probably looking at around 150, 200 million and then a bit more in relation to maybe sales. We'll start off with that. In relation to the summer, where are you looking to generate funds? What sort of players would you be looking to move on?
Well, we've heard so much around the Sir Jim rebuild and the INEOS project being it's going to be brutal and it's not going to be a soft touch. So I'm hoping that they'll go into the summer with that sort of approach. I'm at the point now with Man United that there is some players that I feel like, I wouldn't want them to go, and I feel like the brilliant projects, for example, Højlund, who you've just interviewed, he's someone who I think you can build a team around, Garnacho, Kobe Mainoo, but there's a lot of players in that team where, to be honest, I wouldn't be gutted if we did move them on and build a profit, because I do think a massive rebuild needs to be done. But just starting off the bat, I think Sancho, if Ten Hag's still manager, can't be here next season, so I think he's doing decently well at Dortmund. I feel like that is his level. Maybe that's a sale that Manchester United could get. You'd hope to think for Sancho, if he's doing all right, you could get 40, 45 million. Scott McTominay's another one. I think a mistake not to let him go in the summer for 30 mil. If West Ham do trigger an option to buy with Calvin Phillips, will they want to go in for McTominay? Maybe not, but he's someone you could look to get off for maybe 25, 30 million. Then you look around, Maguire's another one. Done all right this autumn. Is he really part of Erik Ten Hag's plans? He's already, in the FA Cup, you'd think that was Erik Ten Hag's strongest team. He plays Varane and Martinez together. Lindelof, what's his future? You look at the right back, a lot of noise about Wan-Bissaka going out. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of the community love Wan-Bissaka, but for me, if I have to pick a right back to keep, it's Dalot, and I do think we need to improve that area. So I think Martial's another one, probably going a free. But all over the pitch, there's areas where you can make some money and invest in a really good fund for the summer. No,
I agree. I think there's almost, you mentioned the word brutal, and I think it's just about how brutal you want to be, because starting from the back, one of your right backs, you mentioned Maguire, but if Maguire's going to go, I wouldn't be opposed to Varane going if you're going to bring two more suitable long-term project centre-backs into the midfield. Maybe Casemiro might go Saudi, that's more money. McTominay certainly. Eriksen goes on a free for me. And then you've got Sancho, which I would agree. You've also got Mason Greenwood, which is pure profit. Mm-hmm. Probably 50 million quid.
Doing really well over in Getafe as well in Spain. So you'd think he's generating a lot of interest from there. You could get a decent fee for it.
And look, get in the comments what you think. But I'm not saying for any certainty that Maguire, Greenwood, Varane, Casemiro, Sancho, Eriksen, McTominay, Wan-Bissaka.
Donny van de Beek as well. I don't know if you'd get any fee, but you'd think he'd.
But it's a lot of senior. It's a lot of senior pros to go, and I'd be very surprised if they all did go. But on the other hand, it would be brutal, and it would be a massive summer if that happened, and it would generate a lot of freed up wages, a lot of revenue, a lot of reduction in wages, a lot of transfer revenue as well, which would then allow you to have a summer, and people probably wouldn't believe this, but you could easily generate enough money to have 300 million quid to spend.
You look at Scott McTominay as well, another one why he's such a name is pure profit again from the academy. And them sort of sales are vital. I don't think Man United should be afraid to say, okay, he's from the academy, but he's not quite at the level of what we need. He's had a good run, he's had good moments at Old Trafford. Let's move on and think, probably should have done this last summer, but it's time to do it now. If not, it's another contract, like you say, at 27, it's here for life. So. And
I also think that when you're selling players, you've got to look at, if you remove Wan-Bissaka, you've got to bring a right back in, obviously, because you can't survive with just Dalot. If you remove Varane and Maguire, I understand it, because there's resale value, they're on big wages, and they're both into early 30s, so I understand that as part of the rebuild. And then there's other positives around a McTominay or a Sancho or a Greenwood, where if you remove them, you're not actually replacing them. Greenwood's not played for 2 years, so how are you replacing him? Sancho's not played all season, so how are you replacing him? McTominay can't play as a 6, doesn't really play well as an 8, probably best as a 10, but you've already got Mount and Bruno. So it is pure profit, but it's also money that goes into the team that you don't have to go, we need to buy a replacement for McTominay. I think you use the McTominay money to bring in, maybe a Neves from Benfica, or another well-scouted midfielder that can actually do the 6-8 role, rather than McTominay really is a number 10.
I completely agree. You want someone there that can partner Kobe Mainoo really well for that money that you're spending. I think you're absolutely right.
And then, so that's where we talk about what we'd bring in now, and I'd be very interested. I mean, in the comments, I'm sure people are going to give us names and stuff. I don't necessarily.
Everyone will be saying, "Don't listen to Beth. She said Mountain and Anna last season." I have that all the time. Everyone always says, "Beth, whoever you say, opposite."
They've still got a chance to come back. I'm sure they'll both be here next season. But what would be your priority position? We'll talk about, maybe 3 or 4 players we would bring in. I mean, who knows? We might bring 5 or 6 in. But what would be your priority? Because I look at the chat like you do. Some people are obsessed with the striker. Some people are obsessed with the centre-back. I know what the majority went for on a poll we did a few weeks ago. What would be your priority position? I mean, there's going to be a lot coming in.
It's so tough because I was thinking about doing something for socials the other day, and I was going to think of the top 3 positions United need to go in the summer, and I was looking at, I don't even think I can narrow it down. I think I need to do top 5. There's so many areas, and it feels like it every season. But I think my top priority, obviously, with Martial going, Rasmus can't do it all on his own, as good as he is. He does need someone there, but also centre-back so crucial. So for me, top priorities would be between a striker and a centre-back. You'd probably just edge the striker just to give Rasmus a bit of support, but centre-back's absolutely needed as well.
Yeah. Do you know what the word edge means in that chat?
Don't start them off. They're already going down.
They'll be on it anyway. Anyway, we'll move along. But with regards to a striker...
Got to rewind and press play again.
This is the interesting one for me. Rasmus, we've just interviewed him. I think he is perfect for what we need. Mentality, give him the service, he'll score goals. Young striker, he's only going to get better and develop. So as the second striker, we've been linked to people like Xerxes, who's also young, Brobby, also young. That can work. You can have 2 young strikers who work together to make each other better. What sort of striker would you think, not necessarily names, but the sort of striker, unless you have names?
Be prepared to disagree with me, because I saw you talking about this on Twitter, or X as you would call it, the other day. But I keep saying it. I don't think we'll have the pull, because I think other teams are in a better position than us that will be interested in this player as well. But Ivan Toney for me. The reason why, obviously it's going to be expensive. I understand that, and people say we can't blow that amount of money on a striker because we've just spent 72 on Rasmus. And where do him and Rasmus fit together? I think, first of all, I think you can have both of them profiles in your team. Ivan Toney, it's going to cost you money, but he's going to come in, he's going to score goals, he's going to hit the ground running straight away. He's Premier League proven, he's at the right age, I think he's 27. If you bring in another young striker now, like you were talking about Xerxes, he might go on to be a brilliant striker. But again, you're putting a lot of pressure on a young player, and you've not got someone there who is adapted to the league, that he's gonna perform. We're lucky that Rasmus has adapted quickly, and you can tell he's going to be a good striker. That doesn't always pay off when you go for a younger player and you're taking a risk. And I don't think we're in a position to do that. You're the likes of, if you're a Manchester City, you're a well-oiled machine, and anyone can come into that City team and you just make a little adjustment, and they're already they can come in and hit the ground running. Man United, we're nowhere near at it. I think you need someone strong that's going to come in and is available right now. And people say it's a lot of money. We've spent a lot of money in the past on risks, and if you just added that money together, you could have got the initial signing. It's like when we wanted Grealish, but we cheapskated it and went for Donny van der Beek. Realistically, we should have just gone for Grealish. So for me, you've got to you've got to look at what the squad needs, and if someone's worth it, you should go for him. There is the gambling thing that you don't really want to play with an issue, but I do think he's overcome that, and I don't see him doing it again. So I just think an Arsenal will be in there before us. But for me, like you said, you sell Greenwood, you sell Sancho. That's the Ivan Toney money.
I do like Ivan Toney, and I agree with everything you said there. And I think at Arsenal, it'd be perfect.
I think he's going to go to Arsenal. I don't see us getting him. It's who you would want.
I think Arsenal's a stable football club with a missing piece, which is a striker, and I think you can afford to do an Ivan Toney deal. My concern for Manchester United is I don't think Ivan Toney's a missing piece, and I think at 28 for 70 million, and we've got Rasmus, and I've got to say I'm very big on attitude. I think attitude and personality is so important, and I don't know anything about Toney, but I do know he's had a recent ban. And a ban for gambling is, everybody needs to be rehabilitated and get a second chance. But I think United need to be 100% on every player that they recruit now. But where I do agree with you is that if we went for Tony, I actually agree with the profile. I do think we should go for somebody who's a little bit more experienced. The market's very difficult, though. I mean, if anyone in the chat can think of a striker who's 27, 28 that's going to be happy to work alongside Rasmus and not be the main guy, because Osman would be an obvious one. It's going to cost you double the money of Tony, and he's going to want to start every minute. And that's not what I think we need. I think we need someone who's going to balance with Rasmus and work with Rasmus, because you do need two strikers.
That's exactly what I mean. That's why I think Osman's a great player, but that's why I wouldn't go for him, because you want to still give the time to Rasmus. And that's the only drawback I have on Ivan Toney is he probably would want to come in and play in most games, and I still think there's room for both of them to play. Like you said, look at Erling Haaland and Alvarez, both great strikers. Obviously Haaland's the predominant striker, but both get game time, and that's in a City team stats full of talent. I think in Man United squad, both get a very ample amount of game time, especially if we're playing in all the competitions we need to. But a striker is definitely somewhere we need to look, whether that be a young player, whether that be a more experienced player. But for me, I think you've got to go the more experienced end of the spectrum.
It's interesting, though, because my priority in the summer would actually be a centre midfielder. I still think that games are won and lost in the midfield, and I still think that Casemiro gets injured, Mainoo's very young, you're stuck with a very, very inexperienced midfield. And I look at someone like Liverpool, who have 6, 7 options across a big season. I just think we need more quality in there. And if you're going to, Eriksen's surely going to go, because he's only got 1 year left on his deal, and he's a free deal anyway, so you've got to replace him. McTominay's a player that I think, if you're going to keep him, he's got to be a very sporadic bench option. His strength is to score goals. So I think you've got to go and get another player that can do the Mainoo Casemiro role. Amrabat's probably not going to be that player. So I think we're talking about what our major signing would be. There's always a major signing, isn't there? And it was Mason Mount last year. Mason Mount and Rasmus are actually quite close in value, but I think United need to go and get a really good midfielder, because that's where, and I agree with it. I agree with the striker, and I agree with the centre-back, and I think if Wan-Bissaka goes, you've got to bring a right-back in as well. But I think one striker, 2 midfielders, a centre-back and a right-back would be my preference, but he might go 1 midfielder, 2 centre-backs if Maguire and Varane go.
I'm totally with you on the midfielder. I think what Man United are crying out for is a ball-carrying midfielder. We've not had one for so long. Mason Mount isn't a ball-carrying midfielder. Bruno Fernandes isn't. Scott McTominay is probably our closest thing to a ball-carrying midfielder, and let's be honest, he's not good enough. So we do need that, because I feel like every top team in a midfield has someone who can do that, and it links up the midfield from the attack. It's something we massively struggle to do. It's a reason why we struggle to keep possession a lot of the time, and I think it's something we massively need, like you said. And with the striker, I know there'll be loads of comments, so I just want to address it, saying, well, if we bring Ivan Toney, it doesn't mean the wingers are going to pass to him. I get that. I still think you need the depth there.
Well, we mentioned wingers as well. I mean, we'd be wrong of us not to mention the fact that, maybe Michael Elise, he gets assists. He scores goals as well. I mean, I like all our wingers. I really like Garnacho. I still think there's a player there with Anthony. Hopefully there is with Rashford as well. I do like Ahmad. But we've got a very distinct profile of wingers, and maybe it's by design by Erik ten Hag, but I would love to bring in a winger like an Anthony, not Anthony Gordon, but, like an Anthony Gordon, who can score a goal, but also his first thought really is, where's my striker? And I think that if Elise is going to be that. But what I will say, Beth, is we can all chuck names about, but what I really want to see from this summer is I've not even mentioned a right-back if Wan-Bissaka goes, and I'm not going to, everyone will say Frimpong. I've not named a midfielder.
Frimpong, I don't think understand it. That Leverkusen side, he plays in a very well-oiled machine where he's a wing-back, he's not a right-back. Being a wing-back in the Bundesliga is very different to being a right-back in the Premier League. Do I think Frimpong is a very good right wing-back? Cue the comments, you've never seen him play. I actually have researched him because we've been linked to him for a while. He's a very good right wing-back. Can he be a right-back? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and also, we've seen a winger from the Bundesliga who's a very good winger in the Bundesliga and is a very, very good winger in the Bundesliga now, but he wasn't very good in the Premier League. I just think, priorities for me, striker, midfielder, 2 centre-backs.
Spine of the team again.
Right back, maybe another winger. And I don't even want to name names, because actually what I want is a director of football and a CEO who do things like Brighton, like Newcastle, like other clubs, who go and find a winger who's playing in Portugal that we didn't really know a lot about for 20 million, and he becomes the next best thing. And that, for me, is one of the fundamentals of the recruitment this summer. I don't need to know who we're going to sign in February, March and April. I just need to know that they're the positions we're going to go for, and we're actually going to recruit intelligently, use our budget better, and bring in players with the right attitude and the right skill set.
Absolutely. You'd like to think it's already being planned. One thing I would say is, what about goalkeeper?
Well, you're the Onana fan. I mean, I fought that battle. I lost. I'm Napoleon. I lost at Waterloo. I wanted to stay for one more year, and people forget this. I wanted to stay for one more year, and I would have done the change this year.
You were a fan of Onana, though?
No, Onana to me isn't a mistake in the sense that, you know, I'm surprised. But I just would have waited a year. I think we got it wrong.
I'm surprised at how poor it's been, for sure.
Yeah, I am as well. But I wouldn't be changing the goalkeeper in the summer. I think we've got to see it through.
Me too. I think.
And you know, we spent £50 million replacing a goalkeeper that didn't need to be replaced. We're going to have to stick with it. I mean, look, maybe we're all talking if Ten Hag's the manager here. If Ten Hag's not the manager, a new manager might want a new goalkeeper, which terrifies me. At least we're talking about what we would like to do in the summer, based on an assumption that it's a Ten Hag management. If it's not a Ten Hag management, it could be a very different. He might want a left back. He might want a new winger. He might want a new goalkeeper.
Obviously, the goalkeeper thing's a bit of banter. I do think we have to stick with it, but that's one thing I would say is what worries me for Ten Hag's future. And I want Ten Hag to be here next season. I want him to be here through the summer because I want to rebuild with him. But what worries me is all these Elise reports. I can't see under Ten Hag was getting a right winger. He's bought Anthony, plus you see Ahmad coming through. Elise is something that strikes me as what we do under a new manager and a new structure. So
and an
who
INEOS
knows?
signing maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Get your comments in below. We've said who we think can go to raise funds, and we've also given our priorities for the midfield, and the attack. We've given our priorities for the summer. Get your comments in below. We're very interested to read them. Thanks for joining me, Beth.
It's an absolute pleasure. Not quite as good as Rasmus, but we'll get there in the end.
Yep, and thank you very much for the surroundings. It's fantastic. Speak to you all soon. Thank you very much for watching. Smash a like on the video and get in the comments.